Amid deepening partisan confrontation, the opposition bloc tendered a motion to impeach acting President Choi Sang-mok over his non-appointment of a constitutional court justice. The verdict on President Yoon that'll determine his political career could come next week, a sensitive time with major rulings slated for Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and opposition leader Lee Jae-myung. Trade Minister An Duk-gun met U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright in Washington, and the two countries agreed to cooperate to resolve the issue of South Korea being included on the U.S. sensitive country list. It's March 21st, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. Opposition parties today put forward a motion to impeach acting President Choi Sang-mok amid deeper partisan confrontation. The ruling party protested, saying it amounts to terrorism that destroys state affairs. Kim Do-yeon starts our coverage.
After months of warnings and buildup, the five opposition parties proposed an impeachment motion for acting president and deputy prime minister for finance Choi Sang-mok. This came on Friday with the proposal accusing the acting president of 4 different unconstitutional acts. First was an accusation that he was an accomplice to the alleged insurrection led by President Yoon through martial law. Second, and what seemed to be the main reason, was Choi's decision to hold off on appointing the 9th Constitutional Court Justice Ma Eun-hyuk, despite the Constitutional Court's ruling last month that this is an infringement of the parliament's authorities.
To defy the ruling of the Constitutional Court is to defy the constitutional order itself. And beyond that, it is a denial and contempt of the Republic of Korea's very existence. That is how we see it.
The other 2 were his decision to hold off on appointing a Supreme Court justice and a permanent special prosecutor. With the opposition parties having the majority, the motion can be passed unilaterally by the opposition lawmakers. Meanwhile, the ruling People Power Party has fired back, saying this is, quote, terrorism against the government and the DP's emotional revenge by stopping government functions. DPP floor leader also added the DP is not confident about the upcoming ruling on President Yoon's impeachment at the Constitutional Court and needs to add a liberal judge.
The reason Lee Jae-myung's Democratic Party faction is taking such extreme measures is clear. As procedural flaws in the impeachment trial become exposed, they're trying to overturn the case by pushing Ma Eun-hyuk into the Constitutional Court.
This is the 30th impeachment effort by the DP. 13 of them were passed by the National Assembly, with 8 eventually making it to the Constitutional Court. None of the impeachments were upheld. In the meantime, the voting time for Choi's impeachment motion is yet to be decided. One variable is that the Constitutional Court will give its verdict on Prime Minister Han Duck-soo's impeachment on Monday morning. Han was impeached for similar reasons, refusing to appoint Constitutional Court justices. If the court rejects his impeachment, Choi's motion could lose momentum even before the vote. In terms of succession, Han would return as acting president, and even if Choi is suspended, Han would still lead the government. But if Han's impeachment is upheld and Choi is suspended, Deputy Prime Minister for Social Affairs Lee Joo-ho, 4th in line, would take over as caretaker. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
As the Constitutional Court continues to contemplate President Yoon's impeachment case, pundits are weighing in with their thoughts regarding the prolonged deliberation. Our Oh Soo-young reports.
Almost a month has passed with no indication of when President Yoon impeachment verdict will be delivered. As of Friday, the Constitutional Court has not yet revealed when it will rule on the National Assembly's motion to remove Yoon from power, which was passed in December last year following the leader's controversial martial law. For more than 3 weeks, the justices have been convening almost daily to deliberate on the case, a record period of time compared to past presidential impeachments. It took at most 2 weeks for verdicts on former presidents Park Geun-hye and Roh Moo-hyun, but there has been no word from the court as of Friday, 24 days since Yoon's final trial hearing was held. Given that the Constitutional Court notified the former leaders 2 to 3 days in advance of their respective ruling dates, Yoon's verdict could fall between next Wednesday at the earliest and early April before two of the justices retire. The longer-than-expected deliberation has given rise to plenty of speculation over what's holding up the 8-member bench. Some believe the justices are working towards a unanimous decision to impeach President Yoon and are fine-tuning their positions to deliver an indisputable judgment, amid fears that the result may trigger extreme reactions from the public. Some speculate the bench are struggling to align their views, given how an earlier impeachment case of Korea Communications Commission Chair Lee Jin-suk was dismissed, as the justices' opinions were split evenly in line with their political orientations.
It seems the grounds for impeachment are clear, and it is hard to dispute the president's declaration of martial law was unconstitutional and unlawful. But the justices must determine whether the constitutional violations are severe enough to warrant removal from office. There may be justices who argue that it does not meet the threshold for an impeachable offense.
In any case, the justices are facing growing calls to make a swift decision as Yoon's prolonged suspension from office hinders effective governance.
This case is neither legally complex nor presents particularly difficult legal issues. We actually thought a conclusion would come by mid-March at the latest. The prolonged ruling has fueled speculation about political influence, but I believe the justices fully understand the gravity and urgency of this case. I don't expect it to be delayed until early April. I believe that by the end of March, the ruling will be delivered one way or another.
Still, the context of the decision and its timing is inevitably political. Those supporting Yoon's impeachment wish to quickly trigger a snap presidential election, which polls show would favor opposition Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung. Meanwhile, conservatives, including Yoon's supporters, are calling for the case to be dismissed, or for the court to deliver a ruling after Lee Jae-myung's own verdict on Wednesday, March 26th, on one of his 5 criminal cases.
With pressure coming from every side, the court faces the challenge of ensuring its constitutional decision doesn't worsen the deep political division across society. If at least 6 justices agree to uphold impeachment, the president will be removed from office immediately, triggering an early presidential election that must be held within 60 days. If 3 or more justices are against impeachment, the president will resume his duties. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
As key agenda lie ahead, Trade Minister An Dok-keun was back in Washington in 3 weeks, this time to relay concerns over the U.S. so-called sensitive country list. The 2 countries agreed to swiftly resolve the issue. Shin Ha-young has the details.
South Korea and the U.S. have agreed to work together to resolve the issue of South Korea being placed on the U.S. Department of Energy's sensitive and other designated countries list during Minister An Dok-keun's visit to Washington. On Friday, the Trade Ministry said An raised concerns about the designation in his first meeting with the U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright, and both sides agreed to address the matter swiftly. If South Korea remains on the list, new restrictions on research collaboration and visits to institutions affiliated with the U.S. Energy Department will take effect starting April 15. However, An stated that Washington does not expect the designation to significantly impact bilateral scientific cooperation. Seoul hasn't been removed from the list yet, but securing U.S. cooperation increases the likelihood of changes before it takes effect next month. His visit comes at a crucial time ahead of the new Trump administration's anticipated tariff announcement on April 2nd, and securing a favorable position is another key objective for the talks.
Our priority is to seek South Korea's removal from the sensitive and other designated countries list. If immediate removal is not possible, we'll work on alternative solutions to ensure that this designation does not hinder scientific and industrial collaboration between our nations.
The 2 officials also agreed to strengthen energy cooperation in areas such as LNG, hydrogen, power grids, and nuclear energy, including small modular reactors. An said the visit to the U.S. provided an opportunity to confirm both sides' commitment to resolving the sensitive country designation issue and to strengthen the momentum of Korea-U.S. energy cooperation. During his 2-day visit to the U.S., An will also meet with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. With the U.S. set to impose new tariffs worldwide on April 2nd on plans to share South Korea's government and industry stances with Lutnick, whom he met just 3 weeks ago. 신하영, Arirang News.
Ahead of trilateral talks between the top diplomats of South Korea, Japan, and China, scheduled for this weekend in Tokyo, Seoul's Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol today sat down separately with his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi. During the 15-minute-long meeting, they decided to work towards a visit to South Korea by Chinese President Xi Jinping to attend the APEC summit later this year. The two sides also agreed to make efforts to restore cultural exchanges. This comes after China started to restrict the distribution of Korean movies, dramas, and all other forms of pop culture in 2016 in retaliation to Korea's deployment of U.S. THAAD missile defense system. Russia's top security official, Sergei Shoigu, has arrived in North Korea for high-level talks, according to Russian state media. The Security Council secretary reportedly arrived in Pyongyang on Friday and is expected to meet with leader Kim Jong-un during his visit. This marks his first trip to the regime in about 6 months. His arrival comes as military cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang deepens, especially after a North Korean troop deployment to Russia. Observers are also watching to see whether a possible visit by Kim to Moscow will be discussed. Civilians in Gaza, including many children, are bearing the brutal brunt of Israel's renewed ground offensive, following conflict with Hamas over details of their earlier fragile ceasefire. Park Hyo-bin has the latest.
After Israel resumed airstrikes on Gaza from early Tuesday, the attacks have led to over 1,400 casualties as of Thursday. Gaza's Ministry of Health reported that approximately 600 people were killed in the first 3 days of the resumed airstrikes. Of the 400 deaths on the first day of the strikes, nearly 300 were women and children.
We weren't living in a truce. We expected the war to return at any moment. We never felt stability at all. We would go to sleep without expecting to make it to the next morning.
Israel has now deployed ground forces in Rafah, southern Gaza, to dismantle terrorist facilities. In northern Gaza, airstrikes targeted hospitals used by Hamas as command centers. Israel also launched attacks across the city, and the Israeli military confirmed the killing of 2 Hamas security commanders. In response, Hamas issued a statement accusing Israel of committing massacres, claiming that 600 Palestinians were killed. It also launched 3 M90 rockets at Tel Aviv on Thursday, marking its first response to the latest Israeli airstrikes. Israel's defense ministry reported that 1 rocket was intercepted and the other 2 landed in open areas with no casualties reported. On the same day, Iran-backed Houthi rebels joined the attack despite U.S. President Donald Trump's warning.
The Yemeni Armed Forces Missile Force carried out a qualitative operation targeting a military target of the Israeli enemy, south of the occupied Jaffa region, with 2 hypersonic ballistic missiles.
As the clashes between Israel and Hamas intensify, peace in Gaza seems increasingly distant. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
Time now for our arts and culture segment. Joining me in the studio is our culture correspondent, Song Yujin. Welcome, Yujin.
Happy Friday, Jungmin.
Happy Friday. What do you have for us today?
Well, I recently found out that Korean cultural treasures are making a surprise appearance in Germany, with happiness at the heart of the story. So they're currently on display in Germany's eastern city of Dresden, which is also known as the cultural center of the country. So first, take a look. This gold crown and belt from Korea's 5th century Silla dynasty are making a rare visit to Germany for the first time in over 60 years. These national treasures are part of the 100 Ideas of Happiness, or Treasures from Korea, an exhibition at Dresden Royal Palace, a result of years of collaboration between the National Museum of Korea and Staatlichen Kunstsammlungen Dresden, one of the most prestigious museum networks in the world. The partnership began in 2017 when SKD showcased its prize collections to Korea. Now, the favor is being returned with over 180 objects spanning from the Three Kingdoms period to the Joseon dynasty making their way to Germany. Claudia Brink and Paek So-jin are the curators.
We start with works coming from the 5th and 6th century up to the 19th and 20th century, and also lots of genres. So we have sculpture, we have metalwork, goldsmith work, precious objects, paintings, calligraphy. From my field, that this opportunity to present the Korean heritage in this volume, it's impossible. I mean, we had this kind of like a comparable side of exhibition in 1999 in Essen, and that was kind of like a last biggest exhibition in Germany.
Though these artifacts differ in shape, size, and era, they share a common theme: happiness.
Figurative earthenware from the Three Kingdoms period reflects wishes for a good afterlife. The Korean folding screen from the Grazzi Museum of Ethnology in Leipzig, 100 Signs of Happiness in Long Life, captures traditional Korean ideas of joy and fortune. We wanted to introduce Korean cultural heritage and also share a message of hope and resilience.
This isn't just East meets West. It's a bridge between cultures told through a story that never gets old. And in times like these, who couldn't use a little extra happiness?
Happiness is something that we all need.
Right.
Eugene, you mentioned in your report that this is the largest Korean culture exhibition to take place in Germany in well over 2 decades. Tell us about its significance.
Well, I want to point out the historical significance of the exhibition venue, which is the Dresden Royal Palace. So this palace was nearly destroyed during World War II, but has been beautifully restored as of now. So according to curator Kim from the National Museum of Korea, the fact that Korean culture is now being showcased in a space that's so cherished across Europe is a sign of just how far Korean culture has come. So it's truly spreading its wings across the continent. And for the exhibition itself, once again, it'll run until August 10th. And there are a lot of events that are planned along the way. One highlight that curators Claudia and also So-jin mentioned was the Korean Week, which will take place between May 26th and June 1st. So this week will include visitors trying on hanbok, Korea's traditional attire, and experiencing modern art performance inspired by Korean themes. So more details will be announced soon as we approach the week. And just a quick note for anyone who is planning a visit, it's open daily from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. except Tuesdays.
And I hear this exhibition isn't the only cultural moment where Shilla's golden crown is making an impression.
So that is definitely the main piece of this exhibition. So if you saw the report and you found Shilla's gold crown and belt featured intriguing, you might want to check out Blackpink Jennie's music video for her recent track Zen. You're seeing it right now on the screen. It was released in late January, and it features this dazzling costume inspired by the Shilla gold crown. And so the designer says the outfit includes over 1,000 handcrafted metal embellishments, which is a bold fusion of heritage and modern style, meant to really highlight Jennie's unique charisma and connect past and present through fashion.
It's a stunning reinterpretation of tradition. Thank you, Eugene, for the report.
My pleasure.
This Sunday marks National Puppy Day, and in light of this occasion, we share with you a story of puppies who've been making contributions to their communities. Or Park Go-nu shows us how.
Around 7 p.m. when pet owners usually get off work, it's time for their furry friends to head out for their favorite part of the day, a stroll around the neighborhood. These dogs aren't just on their regular walks, but are on a special mission. From tiny pooches to large ones, wearing green patrol suits, they're out there to identify dangerous situations, potential safety hazards, and individuals who may be drunk or lying on the ground.
Coco once found a drunk person on a cold winter day, so we reported it right away.
코코야, 혹시 이번 활동 중에 뭐가 제일 보람찼을까? Thanks to these dogs and their owners, thousands of reports were made in Seoul alone last year. And dogs that performed exceptionally well were given extra prizes. These patrol activities also mean valuable time together for both the pets and their owners.
We usually go for a walk once a day, but now, through this patrol activity, I get to spend time with my dog while also contributing to the safety of my city, which feels really rewarding.
Starting in Seoul in 2022, the Pet Patrol program has expanded nationwide, reaching cities as far as Busan and on Jeju Island. However, not every dog can become a patrol dog as they must meet various criteria, such as how they react to strangers and other dogs, as well as their overall behavior. 기다려. As you can see, this dog that passed the dog patrol test is very gentle and obedient. Though there's no pay, the dogs are rewarded with things like patrol certificates and snacks. Good boy. And the efforts of these patrol teams are helping to create a positive image of dogs for non-pet owners who may fear or dislike them.
I don't usually like having pets, but seeing these dogs working for public safety outside makes me feel good about them.
With over 15 million people, around 1/3 of South Korea's population owning pets, these dog patrols are contributing to the creation of a positive pet culture and society. 박건우, Arirang News.
K-pop girl group NewJeans cannot engage in independent activities under its new name NJZ. On Friday, the Seoul Central District Court accepted an injunction request filed by Adore, its contractual agency, and blocked the group from acting independently. The group has been in a contract dispute with Adore since November last year and began charting an independent path under the new name NJZ. In response, Adore filed the injunction request in January to stop the group from signing its own advertising deals and from performing live and engaging in other entertainment activities.
Finally, the cold snap has receded and the spring weather has come again. It rose to around 17 degrees Celsius during the day in Seoul today. Temperatures will rise even higher to 19 degrees on Saturday and 22 degrees on Sunday. With large daily temperature gaps, make sure to dress in layers. However, the air has been dusted with this warm spring weather. Stuffy air will continue tomorrow in the western regions with bad levels of ultrafine dust in the Seoul metropolitan area, Chungcheongnam-do province, the Jeollado provinces, and Jeju Island. You should wear a protective mask when you go outside. On Saturday morning, Daejeon and Gwangju will start off at 6 degrees, Jeju at 13 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 20 degrees in Gwangju, 25 degrees in Daegu and Gyeongju. For the time being, warm conditions of around 20 degrees will continue. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.